Welcome to the Financial Freedom Secrets Show. This is your host, Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, helping business owners create financial freedom faster by mastering the language of money. Want to see how well you're tracking towards financial freedom? Complete our 40-point financial performance scorecard at wealthhealthcheck.com.au. That's wealthhealthcheck.com.au. The average score for most business owners is 18 out of 40. So complete the scorecard now and see how well you're tracking towards financial freedom. G'day guys, it's Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, and we're here for another episode of the Financial Freedom Secrets Show. I've got a new friend of mine, Fiona Morris. We've become very close friends on TikTok, but this is actually the first time that we've caught up face to face. So I'm very excited to have this conversation, share some amazing value with you on so many different fronts. On the front of growing and scaling a business, of enduring hardships, of creating a community, of delivering exceptional value, and basically creating a financial freedom faster by leveraging expertise and proven process. So I'm very excited for our conversation today. Fiona, how you doing?
Hi, I'm so good. Thanks for having me. I'm a little croaky, but I'm told I sound like Kathleen Turner, so I think that's a positive.
That's a compliment. I love it. So, mate, for those who don't know you, tell us your story and what you do and who you help.
So I'm grew up in housing commission, grew up with, very little, left school, got booted out, a bit of a reject on the rebellion front, went into a trade. Back then it was, you go to uni or you get a trade. So I applied for panel beater, hairdresser and chef, and I got the chef's apprenticeship. So off I went. I have too much personality and front of house vibrancy to be a chef. I'm too theatrical, not enough of a bastard. And so I then fell pregnant at 21 and a lot of choices were adjusted because of that. I did some daycare from home and then landed back in hospitality and restaurant management. I got married and was an instant mum of 4. And my husband had some challenges getting and keeping work in the mining downturn. And we started our first cleaning business in 2011. It was massive. It's what I call the fake fast growth. It's the you're growing, but there's a fakeness to the reality as of, the foundations were really, sort of weak. We were earning at the rate of knots, spending at the rate of 2 knots. And our marriage dissolved. I was 143 kilos and went bankrupt in 2018. Enter the darkest, most difficult time of my life. If anyone's ever been in money stress, it was a constant cycle of worrying about money, overspending, under-delivering, being angry with my staff. And so I was not an ideal boss, leader, or human at that point. Got divorced, spent some time licking my wounds, getting counselling. And when, all else failed, I was a cleaning trainer underneath. So I did some cleaning training for a couple of years. And during that time, people kept saying, can you teach us how to start a cleaning business? I said, absolutely. And Start My Cleaning Biz was born. And I would say, I can teach you to start one, but I can't teach you to grow one because I shit the bed on that pretty bad. I can't help you with that. And then in May 21, the doors opened for me to start another cleaning business. I was terrified. And I initially said no. And I remember going to the quote and the lady said to me, so what's your cleaning business called? And everything within me just said, do it better this time. And I said, it's called the Better Clean Team. And I went home and registered that name after the quote because my cleaning business didn't exist. I'd only ever failed. And so Start My Cleaning Biz was this course I was running, and I was teaching women in COVID how to get a job because of lockdowns and things. They were finding it was like a side hustle. And I love hearing you refer to side hustles because we're going to talk about various revenue streams shortly. And so as it evolved, I got back into my cleaning business and I noticed my behavior was the same. The sting of bitter disappointment and bankruptcy clearly hadn't been enough for me to wake up to myself and behave differently. And that was so interesting to me. And I realized that I needed a coach. And so I started coaching myself and putting myself through Start My Cleaning Biz to do it right. And then that evolved into Grow My Cleaning Biz. And we now mentor and we have 106 members in our Grow My Cleaning Biz community. And then I realized there's earning money, there's, earning money, and then there's making money, and then there's spending money, and then there's saving money. And now I've realized there's creating wealth. And that was never an option for me before now. So it's super interesting to how quickly we go back into spending, making, growing, spending, making, growing, spending, breaking, mowing. And then we don't slow down to go, hang on, I should be creating wealth with this. So I've just entered a phase that my cleaning business and the coaching business has released me from lots of things, but that we're now in wealth creation mode, which is a new place for me to be, because, you know, I like to spend money and I like nice things. In the last 18 months, I've come out of bankruptcy. My first milestone of I'm doing okay here was, before I die, I want to buy my son a house. And I bought him a house in a place called Singleton, not a fancy house. It was $410,000. I had a $120,000 deposit. He now rents it and he lives there. It's slightly negatively geared thanks to the interest rates. My partner and I live in a property we fully own. We've got some shares, and we just recently bought our second property, a church in Inverell, which we're renovating, which is kind of our nest egg. And so this is a new and exciting time for me, but I also realized that people think wealth creation and they think money and they think artwork, overseas trips, nice cars. And I actually have realized since meeting you, with all the love in the world, an overgrown beard, overgrown mountainous, bloke that's coming at you in TikTok, that this is wealth creation. Wealth creation, isn't vanity. Revenue's vanity. Wealth creation is boring, and it's about restraint and alignment with your values. And it is about going without to gain much. And so I'm excited to be here. Yesterday, I went to the accountant and we did our yearly figures. And I looked at last year being our first $1 million standalone year, which is, hey, you always remember me, but it's so good. And I looked at the page and I said to my accountant, that's the number I'm most proud of, is $1,018,000 revenue. And he turned the page and he went to the profit of $254,000. He said, that's the number I'm proud of, because we can create wealth with that. And it brings you back to a humility around it. There's principles in play, but that's the snapshot of where I've been and where I am right now.
Oh, mate, what a story. And firstly, I'm super proud of you. Like, this is
Thank
amazing,
you.
the achievement, and to see how you show up now and how you can use that experience and use that to teach and show other people a better way.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if we've spoken about this, but my mum
Yeah.
was actually a cleaner. She had a business called Gifted Hands.
Oh, I love that.
It's how she created that business because she wanted to be there for me when I was going through school.
Yeah.
Because it's very hard to create flexibility, and having a
Yeah.
cleaning business, although you do have to work nights if you're doing offices and whatnot, or early mornings or whatnot, it does give you a lot of flexibility, and it's an amazing
So
way to
much.
create a lifestyle business. And although my mum was, as the business was called, Gifted Hands, she was very gifted at what she did. And for most of the things she did across her lifetime, she never had much money to show for it. And that seems to be a common story with so many people who are in this cleaning business space. So thinking back on your experience, Fiona, of what got you into financial trouble and observing all of these hundreds of cleaning businesses, what leads them to financial hardship and not escaping this vicious cycle of financial struggle?
Okay, so first and foremost, I think that most cleaners have a heart of service, and we have to want to please. And so I actually personally think that the number one core issue for me and many others is people pleasing, going in with a anxiety towards displeasing and being adverse to complaints. I remember the first time I ever met a business coach was at BNI, and he said, how's business? I said, it's so good. We've never lost a client. And he looked at me and he said, are you over servicing? Are you profitable? I thought, far out. He could see my soul. I thought the success measure was everyone was happy. No one ever left. I never got a complaint. But that's people pleasing. It's not service delivery. You need to have a percentage of being willing to let people down. If you're earning enough and you're charging enough, then someone at some point is going to have an issue. So I think if we can understand that you're actually not going to please everyone, there's going to be a point at which you've got to stop contorting yourself to please everybody on the planet, because you actually need, in a profitable business, to be charging 100% and delivering at 80%, because there's your profit. Okay. So your 80% needs to be good enough. So that would be the first thing, is people pleasing, appeasing people, wanting to be the best. Perfection costs you profit. So that would be my first rule. The number two would actually be spending habits. I call it ceiling spending. If you're earning 500 and you're spending 500, then you'll earn 1,000 and you'll spend 1,000 and you'll earn 5,000. And I can tell you now, when we went bankrupt, we were profitable. We were profitable and we were at $20,000 or $25,000 a month profit. Now, when I break that down, $20,000 a month profit is $5,000 a week. $5,000 a week. Let's take 30% for the government. Even at $6,000, you're now left with $4. At $5,000, there's $1,250 gone. So you're left with $3,500-ish, $3,700. Out of that $3,700, you now need to put money back into the business to grow it. So there's $1,700 gone. You're left with $2,000. So all of a sudden, my husband and I were left with $2,000 a week. You think that's great. That's heaps. Well, we got personal tax to pay. And now you've got, personal expenses to pay. And now you've got XYZ to pay. And all of a sudden, we have what I call false numbers. And when I talk false numbers, it's because a lot of business owners look at the profit and loss. They don't look at the balance sheet or the relationship between the two. And this is actually a new education point for me. I'm sitting there going, hang on, the profit and loss doesn't have half the numbers. I got half here and I got half there. And what's the relationship with the two? And that's the cash position summary. And learning your numbers, having financial acumen. One of the most common things with people who go bankrupt, don't know their numbers or are overspending is, but my accountant does all of that. And then when it goes wrong, they blame their accountant, when financial acumen and knowing your numbers is the responsibility of the business owner. Number one. So, people pleasing would be number one. Knowing your numbers would be number two. Number three would actually be flow, cash flow, flow in life, breath work, flow. If you're clogged up, and I'll explain everyone what cash flow actually is. People go, cash is king. No, cash flow is king. Now, the idea is that I want you to pay me. And I'm holding 2 bottles of water here as a great example. I've got one that's got fuck all in it. Or hang on a second, for the editing, I've got 2 bottles of water here, one with about 10% in it, one that's quite full. Now, I'm going to come and work for you. And in a lot of spaces and in Millionaires Row, they actually get paid before they do the job. There's so many places that you go. The ideal in cash flow is we get paid before we've done a thing. And that's great. But in the cleaning space, it's rare. And people are like, hang on a second, what? No, I want to see, what I've got. You can't walk into David Jones and walk out with perfume and say, listen, I'll pay you next week after 3 squirts if I'm happy with it. But in the cleaning industry, for some reason, in the services industry, because we are down the hierarchy of importance for a lot of people, we come in at the end of a building job. We come in at the end of the day. We're not as important. So we're basically working on IOUs. So I'm holding $10 in my hand now. I'm going to do $10 worth of work. And we go, great. But what we don't realize, it actually costs us with the ATO's benchmarks, it costs us a certain amount to execute that job, introducing cost of sales. Mm-hmm. So in order to deliver $10 worth of cleaning, it actually costs me $5, direct cost. And then I've got my 16 or 17% indirect costs. I'm really left with $2 out of 10. People don't understand cash flow. And so what then happens is we pay everybody that's putting their hands out each week. So we get $1,000 this week and we pay our staff because they've done the work, and that's great. But there's unfortunately quarterly and yearly costs that are out of sight, out of mind. So what then happens is BAS time comes and we look at the BAS and we think, how do I owe that? Because it's not coming knocking every week. So cash flow and budgeting and knowing those numbers, you can know your numbers and you can even be charging profitably, but still never have any money because your flow is wrong. And I think that those two connected together is super important. So we don't do any cleaning for anyone without direct debit, credit card payments, terms and conditions, and a minimum 50% deposit. Not a loan shark. I'm not working on IOUs. So that would be the third sort of indicator that something's not right. You can't pay your bills. There's not an abundance. And the last one here is they don't work out of the business. They are on the tools, in the trenches all the time. When I go into failing businesses and I look at it, 9 times out of 10, they can actually start making an exit. They can start to get off the tools. A cleaning business owner can start to make an exit at exactly 100 hours worth of cleaning per week, 5 cleaners, 20 hours each. They don't know this. So they just keep working harder and harder and harder. And they need to be working on their business. I have always had business coaches, business mentors. And if I look at what is in your background and what is in my background, it's a similar line of, I have to be learning.
Yes.
And they're not learning anything. They are doing and not learning. And we're human beings. We're not human doings. So I notice in businesses where it's going south that they're doing more and more and more. And in Australia, unfortunately, if I say, okay, listen, Jackson, I'm going to come and clean for you, and I'm going to do less than your previous cleaner, and I'm going to charge you more than the previous cleaner, Australians go, piss off, mate, get out of here. We have a real problem in Australia with tall poppies, and even the concept of you should be doing less and earning more is so foreign to people. But as a leader, I consider business a war, and the troops are in the trenches. You have to get out of the trenches because the strategy is done up the hill. The lieutenant comes to the major goes to the whoever, and up the hierarchy. When you're in business, initially you're doing all those things. So you have to get out of the trenches every now and again to get a perspective of your business. And I think that doing more and more and more and more is a consumer, is like, you get on Facebook or Instagram, you get on anywhere where there's a narrative and a dialogue with the masses, it's do more, more, more. But I watched wealthy people. I started paying attention to all the people that I knew who had a lot of money, and they spent their time doing things that I was not doing. I was doing more and more and working harder. And I noticed that they took time off from their business. They went overseas a lot. They went on these conferences. They were having self-care, downtime, exercise. And I realized that you cannot see the forest for the trees when you are in those trenches. So they would be my 4. I'm sorry they took so long to explain, phenomenal. But they're my 4.
It's so much good value, mate. And I think the interesting part here, and it's as you were talking through that, interestingly enough, I remember in school holidays, my mum used to take me to her big cleaning jobs. And my mum was very good at working for these very wealthy families. And there was a wealthy family that she worked for many, many years, who were very famous architects. They had a beautiful home. And she used to take me there. And I used to observe as well to see how these people lived their lives. And whenever I'd be on school holidays, they'd be away on holidays overseas and doing all of these things. And I'm like, wow, why is my mum like slaving herself away, like breaking her back to do all of these things, whilst these other people who are like higher than life have all of these opportunities and are living just a completely polar reality.
Yeah.
And I think this creates this dichotomy, particularly for home services businesses and cleaners, is that they don't see themselves as money people. They don't see themselves as business operators. They don't see themselves as entrepreneurs. They're just the help.
Yeah.
And that's a big burden to carry.
Yeah.
So if somebody's listening to this and they understand these tips and they have been abdicating responsibility to their accountant or their financial advisor or whoever, but they've had this penny drop, they go, shit, okay, these are the things I want. I don't want to end up bankrupt. I don't want to just be hand to mouth. What's the first step to make that shift?
So one of the things I probably had to come to terms with at one point in time was that every other cleaner out there is effectively a competitor of mine. And, you know, we've heard it before about Facebook groups and Instagram groups and things like that. I think probably the first thing that I would do is get some sort of learning or coaching that helps you identify that you are a wealth creating entrepreneur. which is tough when you've come from nothing. Also, it's tough when your own clients don't necessarily value you at the top end of the market. So I think when I'm on a job, I'm there to please. But there is an element there of every single clean needs to make profit, which is the extra abundance. So I honestly think that the connection towards the scarcity and abundance is you don't need these clients. You are the prize. They need you. They're coming to you with a problem. The problem is their dirty home. We think the client's the prize, and we are the prize. We are there as service-driven individuals, not slaves, and that's the difference. I'm of a service heart, but I'm of a profit-first mindset.
Yes.
I think separating yourself from what you do. You are not what you do. It might be cleaning today. It could be gardening tomorrow. It could be art next week. You don't know. We connect our identity to what we do, and therefore on a day that it goes well, we're great, and on a day it goes shit, we are shit. And there's this roller coaster of I'm great, I'm rubbish, I'm great, I'm rubbish. Thinking even back to your mum, and I also think I love our clients and I adore them, but wealthy people don't make money by being over generous. You have to demonstrate the value and why you're different and elevating yourself. In order to elevate yourself, if there's 1,000 cleaners and you want to be part of the top 10%, you can't go swimming with the 999. So I know Kerwin Ray or some of the different coaching clients, coaching people around, I've heard it called the cesspool of mediocrity. I've heard it called all sorts of different things, but you will never be able to get into a helicopter and rise above your business if you've got 999 passengers. So the answer to it would be find people that are where you want to be. You are actually where I want to be. 8-figure business, have created wealth. I met you when you were a fancy pants, suit wearing, book wielding professional, as opposed to this hobo that lives in the woods, as everyone says. And they don't actually realize that wealth creation isn't a monetary destination. To me, the fact that your mum had to take you on cleans, I had to take my children on cleans. I don't have to do that anymore. My 22-year-old son works in the business. I take him to the Australian Open. We go the finals together because I can drop at the hat and take him where I want to do. He works in the business. He does the tough yards. Wealth creation is this. It's a relationship between your soul, your time, and your money being free. So your mum taking you to those cleans, she was locked in. There was not a freedom there. And as inspiring as it is, and I think we need to see the slog, we need to go into the trenches. But I know that her heart would have yearned for spending time with you in the holidays. So there is an element in service-based business where absolutely we need to sacrifice some things, but I tend to see people sacrifice way too much. And I want you to understand too is that stop marketing to people that are not your ideal client. They're broke. They don't have the money for your services. I've heard you say before, I specifically am looking for 7 figures, big business owners. That means people earning 6 figures and above, and on the way to 7 are your guy and girl. Same with me. My magic is I create 7-figure cleaning businesses because 7 figures is actually the first point of wealth creation. 7 figures revenue is only 6 figures earnings. People think there's a lot more out there, but we tend to then go with people that can't afford us and try to convince them into, positioning themselves to want us. You position yourself to attract that client. So as cleaners, as service-based business owners, setting ourselves apart is going to also be a mindset shift. My money stories, new level, new devil, baby. Every time I get to a new level, there is a terrifying precipice of growth waiting on the other side. I say to people who say, do I need a financial advisor? And I remember the first time I ever went to get glasses, and I find them hideous, not even wearing them today because they're aesthetically displeasing to me. And I remember saying to the optometrist, do I need to wear these all the time? And he said, that depends. How often would you like to see properly? I was like, good point. So people come to me and they say, should I get a financial advisor or should I wait till I've got some money? I said, that depends. Are you the type of person to wait to go to the gym till you're already fit? Of course you need a financial advisor. As soon as you start making money, you should be getting advice from somewhere, and it shouldn't be your peers. I don't go to other cleaners to tell me how to grow a cleaning business. I go to people who've grown, scaled, failed, replicated. And I avoid one-hit wonders too. I'm not talking to people who've created a cleaning business in the middle of COVID by accident, and they're 23 years old, 25 years old. I want to get my advice from people who are further along than me, who have done it before. I listen to a lot of what you say. I've never heard that before because it's next level. So that's sort of my take on how to come out of that.
Oh, this is so powerful, mate. You're dropping so many gold nuggets, which is amazing.
Thank you.
And look, I think this is a testament that you can't see the light through the trees when you're surrounded by people who think and act like you and getting the exact same things in life served to them as you are getting. And you need to focus on that rising tide lifting all ships. And you're right, it is so difficult in Australia because of that tall poppy thing.
Absolutely.
Is that there are people who will try and drag you down. Yeah. And it takes courage to want to rise above that because you know that you're going to lose friends, you're going to lose family, you're going to be judged, and people are going to throw shady. Like we cop it on social media all the time, but just wanting to be seen and to help people, right?
Yeah. Polarizing.
It really is, but that's where you need to be. That's where growth happens.
Yeah.
And I think this is a testament to why I wish that there was someone like you available when my mum was growing her business. She says this to me all the time. Like, you've got access to such great education and information these days. I didn't have that back then, and I don't think she did. And I think it could have made the reality for her and for us as I was growing up so different. Yeah. So, mate, somebody who's listened to this, it resonates because this is all gold, and this doesn't just apply to cleaning businesses. This applies to all service businesses. This is a universal language of business growth and wealth creation. So, mate, let's talk a little bit about your program. Who's an ideal, perfect fit client for working with you?
Yeah. What you were just saying about leadership and losing friends and stuff like that. I have this saying that says leadership is lonely, but misery loves company. So your pity party will always have it. Everyone will be at the table. When I was 143 kilos, bankrupt and newly separated, I did not have any more cheerleaders behind me than I had dozens. People were everywhere. So first and foremost, our program targets people that know that they want more and they're willing to put some massive work in. You going into Facebook groups and you're thinking, this just doesn't feel right. This whinging, screenshotting of clients. Business is so hard. Well, yeah, it is. Did you think it was did you think it was going to be easy? So I think for me, our program, we have Start My Cleaning Biz for people that want to have a side hustle. They're going to register an ABN and it's a great way to have some claimable expenses. Okay. And that's great. That's the side hustle. You can earn up to, $1,000 a week on a weekend doing the side hustle. We then have Grow My Cleaning Biz, and we've got different levels of our program. Bronze and silver are kind of like self-paced learning, want to set up the structure. We have teams now. We have coaching programs for people that are about to hire their first staff member. I always say this, you have no business hiring a staff member if you're not paying all of your bills on time and have an excess left over. So creating a war chest. I actually grow cleaning businesses, carpet cleaning business, pest control, things like that. My goal is to grow them to 7 figures and then hand them over to someone like you because they can take them to 8 figures. I think in our program, we've got people that really show a lot of acumen and they go off and they do it self-paced. We've had cleaning businesses coming to us on the border of bankruptcy who are now on the other side of that. We also do the Gordon Ramsay experience, which is a terrifying, wonderful 5-day immersive where I come into someone's business, I rip it to shreds, we turn over every stone, and by the time I've left, we've band-aided, triaged, and put basically on radical radiation therapy their business. So there's lots of ways to work with us. Grow my cleaning biz and start my cleaning biz are Googleable. We're on TikTok. There's a lot of different facets and there's a lot of theatre to what I do. I put my cleaning hat on and I sit with what the customer might go through. But look, my wheelhouse is you need to be ready to invest. If $49 a month shocks you, if $79 a month shocks you, then you're probably on our self-paced programs. If you want coaching and you want mentoring, you need to be ready to invest two things, money and time. I find people come into our coaching sometimes and they want to throw money at it and they think I'm going to wave a magic wand. If you are actually willing and ready to be a leader and go to seven figures, you're going to be confronted with your own behavior. You're going to be called names like lunatic and crazy. Your own family and friends have gotten used to the small version of you that's easily manipulated. I've never been lonelier as a leader and never been happier in my own company at the farm. I resonate so much with you when you're out with the pigs, feeding the chickens. And I can't wait for the time when, I'm in that same position. So there's lots of ways to work with us. We've got free downloadables. If people are in crisis, there's a lot of free downloadables that we have. But you can easily access us for $49 a month.
That's phenomenal, mate. We'll include all the links in the show notes. So
guys,
welcome. There's so many golden nuggets here. You're probably going to have to re-listen back to this like 2 or 3 times to note them all down. I know I certainly will. And look, mate, you're an absolute powerhouse. I think you're a testament to being honest and straightforward and not hiding behind a lot of the smoke and mirrors that so many people in business and also coaching do. And I think it's really refreshing, particularly in this service space. I think this is what we need, and this is what coaching is all supposed to be about.
Thank you so much. Do you know the statistics are something like in the cleaning industry, it's something like 4 out of 5 businesses close in the first, 2 to 5 years. The statistics that they don't talk about are the fact that out of 106 clients and 3,000 in our Facebook, something like 89% are under significant financial stress.
Wow.
That's a sickening statistic. Going to bed not knowing how you're going to pay the bills tomorrow. I'm thrilled that I'm even been invited and have been able to come on here because wealth should be for everyone. And if we can get some financial acumen, check our ego and realize that it's not artwork and fanciness, we can truly have a life that we look at. And even on the hardest day, I smile at the magic of it. And, the kookaburra in the tree at our property, it doesn't need to be as difficult and as hard as I think sometimes we make it on ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful words, mate. I really appreciate it. This has been phenomenal. And I look forward to catching up again soon. And guys,
I can't wait to interview you.
Yes, it's going to happen. But guys, remember, a good idea in theory remains exactly that, just a good idea until you put it into practice. So make sure that you take just a couple of pearls of wisdom from this and put it into practice, no matter what business you're in, what shape or size you're at, or the situation that you're starting from. Fiona, thanks again, mate. And look forward to catching up again soon.
Likewise.